We were all promised this massive revolution. The idea was that AI was going to completely take over, replacing tons of software developers and changing the tech world forever. But, well, that's not quite what happened. So today, let's dig into the AI coding revolution that just wasn't.
I mean, it really wasn't that long ago that this headline was sending shockwaves through the entire tech industry. The message was super clear and, frankly, pretty scary for a lot of people. AI is coming for your job. We're talking about predictions claiming a whopping 80% of all software development could be automated in just a few years. It felt less like a forecast and more like a final countdown. But here's the funny thing. As we started getting closer to that deadline, the actual data, the real numbers, started painting a very, very different picture. One that was just worlds apart from all that hype we were hearing from investors and tech execs.
And look, this wasn't some fringe idea cooked up on the internet. The AI takeover was a core part of the strategy for some of the biggest names in the game. They were pouring billions and billions of dollars into making this prediction come true.
Exactly. Companies like Google and Meta were out there publicly announcing these incredibly ambitious goals for AI-generated code. Google even reported that more than a quarter of its new code was already coming from AI. The message couldn't have been clearer. The machines were learning the job, and human programmers were on their way out.
But this is where the whole story starts to get really interesting. Right when the hype was at its absolute peak, the actual employment numbers started telling a completely different story.
So, instead of the mass layoffs everyone was bracing for, something kind of weird happened. The same companies that had let software developers go started hiring them back. In fact, tech companies started hiring more developers than they had before. What was happening on the ground was a total contradiction to those doomsday predictions.
And the data was just undeniable. In September, tech layoffs were down a staggering 27% compared to the year before. It seemed like the only thing companies were actually laying off was the idea of laying off their developers, which of course made everyone ask one huge question. Why wasn't the AI takeover happening?
Well, the answer is in the messy, complicated, real world of software development. See, when these AI tools left the perfect, clean world of a demo and got thrown into the chaos of a real production environment, some pretty major problems started popping up. This table here really just nails the core issues. There was this big academic study, we're talking over 500,000 code samples, that found AI-generated code was, well, simpler. And while that might sound okay, what it actually meant was that the software was less robust. It breaks way more easily, and it's a total nightmare to maintain, to fix or add new features. And if that wasn't bad enough, it was also packed with up to 45% more high-risk security holes. Yikes.
And hey, it's not just academics pointing this out. The data from the industry tells the exact same story. A report from a company called CodeRabbit found that AI-generated code had, on average, almost 11 issues that needed fixing compared to just over 6 for humans. Every single one of those extra issues cost time and money to clean up.
This whole situation led to this really fascinating paradox. For junior developers doing simple repetitive stuff, AI was a total game changer. It boosted their speed by up to 35%. But for the senior engineers, the experienced pros, it was the complete opposite. They were actually 19% slower using AI because they were wasting an extra 8 to 11 hours a week just fixing or totally rewriting the AI's messy code.
And here it is, the bottom line. The business case just fell apart. A mind-blowing 90% of these AI coding pilot projects completely failed to show any clear return on the investment. The hype was writing checks that the financial reality just couldn't cash.
So now, let's look at some real-world examples. These aren't just abstract stats. These are real companies that went all in on AI automation and, well, they paid a pretty heavy price for it.
The story of Builder AI is a perfect example. The company made this huge promise. We'll build your entire app using only AI. And on that promise, it was valued at a wild $1.5 billion. But what was the big secret? Turns out, a lot of that AI work was actually being done by a hidden army of over 700 human engineers. And by 2025, the whole illusion just shattered. The company went bankrupt and laid off almost 1,000 people.
So, if the Builder AI story was about deception, this next one is about pure, unfiltered risk. A Google AI tool with one single incorrect command permanently wiped an entire disk drive full of data. It was this terrifying wake-up call about the dangers of just handing over control of critical systems to an automated tool without any human oversight. One little mistake, and months of work can literally vanish in an instant. All of this, the bad code, the failed projects, the horror stories, it's forced a huge shift in thinking.
The conversation isn't about replacing humans anymore. Now it's about collaborating with them. The industry is finally moving toward a much more realistic and, honestly, a more productive way of using AI as a coworker.
So why the big change of heart? Well, pretty much everyone agrees that today's AI has some major limitations. It really struggles with the messy stuff you find in the real world. Old legacy code, business needs that aren't perfectly clear, and requirements that are always changing. An AI can't just ask, hey, what did you mean by that? It can't anticipate problems you didn't tell it about. And that's a huge problem when you realize over 70% of projects change direction while they're being built.
And this brings us to the new model. AI as a really, really powerful assistant. The real revolution isn't about getting rid of developers. It's about making their work better. It's about using these smart tools to handle the simple, boring, repetitive tasks, which frees up human engineers to focus on what they're actually great at, solving complex problems, critical thinking, and, actually being accountable for the final product.
So, where does all this leave us? The conversation has completely changed. The hype totally overestimated what AI could do, and at the same time, it completely underestimated the sheer complexity of great human engineering. In the end, the question was never really, can AI write code? It has always been, and it will always be, can we trust it?